What's up, everyone? We just had the big new Diablo 4 Season 8 Campfire chat where we learned all about the new season, the new seasonal mechanics, the new features, the new items, the new balance changes, everything coming to the new season. And it was around an hour and a half long, up to like an hour and a half, 2 hours. I watched the entire thing, and I'm going to keep this relatively short summary because there's not much to tell you. Even though it was a really long presentation, there isn't much to talk about. And I just want to say before getting into this, I'm a massive Diablo fan. I've played every Diablo since Diablo 2. I've played every single season of Diablo 4. And the good and the bad ones. And while everyone's been memeing, D4 bad, D-Blizzard bad, I've been sat here enjoying Diablo 4. But I cannot sit here and go, Season 8 is really good, we get in there, because Season 8 looks bad. Season 8, it looks like the most lackluster, lazy effort of a season I think we've had so far. Okay, so let's talk about the actual features of Season 8, because when we do, you'll realize I'm not just saying this off the cuff. I'm not just saying, this is a lazy season just out of bias. Because if you've played Season 2, which was season of the vampire season, and if you played Season 7, which was the witch season, then you'll realize you've probably played Season 8, and it's not even out yet, because it's just a reskin. It is a reskin of what we've already got in the game. So let's talk about the new features. I wrote some notes, but they've done a really good write-up here, so I'll run you through this. So first up, this season is all about bosses. This season is all about the end game bosses, which is a strange thing to do because the end game bosses in Diablo suck. We one-shot them. We go in, we one-shot the bosses, we get the loot, and we do it again. So it's a brave take, but here's what it's about. It's about new bosses. We're getting 3 new bosses. We're getting Belial, which you'll recognize from the old games. We're getting Urivar from the story, and then we're getting the Harbinger of Hatred. With these are the 3. We're getting these are 3 new bosses that are coming, and they're sitting this one, Belial, up at the top as the same as Duriel and Anduriel, which are like our 2, our capstone bosses, are the ultimate bosses, the main bosses of the end game. So that's what's coming. That's the 3 new bosses. And the entire seasonal mechanics are based around the boss powers. This is the new seasonal feature. And like I say, if you've played 2 or 7, you've played 8, because this is a complete reskin. It's literally identical layout. You collect token, you level it up, and you put it in slot. It's exactly the same. These are loaded pretty cool. So what it is all of these are powers from old bosses. So you can put 1 in here, and this becomes a power assigned to your character. So you can only have 1 power at a time, and then these are modifiers. So every single one of these has a power or a modifier depending on where you put it. So you only have 1 power at a time, which is not much. So here you go. If you put it in the main slot, it becomes a power. So here's an example of Lilith's thing where Lilith fires out the spikes. She fires out like the bone spikes. If you have it at the top, you have the bone spikes. Whenever you cast a skill, bone spikes come out. If you put it at the bottom, it has an effect instead of what the other power would do. So there's a lot of creativity and a lot of things you can do here. So, we can do some pretty fun stuff. They showed like you can use a Duriel's like burrow into the ground, become immune, and then pop out. They showed, you can set up electrified fields. There's some pretty interesting things. You can fire like a big laser. So there's some cool stuff here. But in terms of content, no. So the content we have is this. They didn't show much about it, but basically it's an open world incursion event. So apparitions appear, and they look like these green ghosts. Apparitions appear, and you basically fight bosses. You fight a bunch of bosses in the open world, and they will drop these tokens, they will drop this essence, and that's how you farm the essence. That's Season 8. Okay, now I'm going to give my opinion, a bit of a rant at the end of where we are with Diablo 4. I'm going to say that to the end, because I don't want to factually get through what's actually coming, because if you're looking forward to Season 8, there are some very good changes. There are some things which are really good that change the core of the game. So let's go through those. I'll go on to this. I'll shrink this as well a little bit. There we go. Okay, so the first thing is leveling and progression is changing. So leveling in Season 7, leveling right now in 7 is rapid. I leveled my Spiritborn in like 3 or 4 hours. It's incredibly fast. And they've realized that. They said on average this season it was like 9 hours. Before, it used to be like 15 to 17. So we're rolling it back to how it was. So basically leveling the speed is gonna take twice as long, which it's a nerf to your speed, but there's not much meat at the end game, especially in Season 8. So probably good they're slowing you down a little bit. And then while we're leveling, items are going to change. So you're not going to get, you're not going to blink and gain 10 levels and 50 legendaries. You're going to get much less legendaries, but you're going to get more magic and rare items, and those magic and rare items are going to have additional affixes on. So 2 on magic, 3 on rare. So you're going to be wearing worse gear, progressing a bit slower, and then when you do hit the end game, that's when you're going to get juiced with all your legendaries. When you get to the end game itself, the torment difficulty, they're going to make it harder, which I think is a very, very, very good thing. You could get to Torment 4 in like 2 days. You could get from like brand new character to Torment 4 in like 2 or 3 days if you played enough. So I think it's good they're changing this. They're saying now Torment 4 will be the equivalent of getting to Pit 76 right now. See, I think it's good they're slowing it down. I do think, you know, this should be a harder challenge. You shouldn't just be blasting straight to the end. That's good. One thing that was a little alarming, I wrote this down, is I can't remember who it was, but one of the guys said, "I don't believe any of you will reach Pit Tier 150, which is a very scary statement for 2 reasons. One, you do not know your players. Somebody will, you know. And another reason is you cannot balance the game. There is always a broken build. Look at Spiritborn's release. There is always a absolutely busted broken build that one-shots everything and just blows everyone else out of the water. And the problem is, if you make tier 150 so hard that the average player can't hit it, you're almost encouraged to play the broken build. You know, if you're struggling in like pit tier 105, and then someone's playing like a barbarian that has infinite health and can one-shot the entire screen all the way to pit 150, you feel silly playing on your character. So, very brave statement. I hope they balance this properly, because that could be worrying. But either way, in a perfect world, this does sound good. This does sound very, very good. The next big changes were to bosses. So we had big changes to lair bosses. So there's some quality of life changes in that when you hover over where the boss is, it will say where the boss, you say what boss is there. So you don't have to Google, you know, where is Duriel? Duriel is here. You know, you can actually see on the map where he is. Good change. And you can teleport straight inside. Same as you can to Nightmare Dungeons. Big W. Should have been in since the start of the game, but big W, huge quality of life change. Additionally, we have the 3 extra bosses that we've talked about, which is good. And they're saying that this guy is going to be on par with Duriel and Anduriel, which is good because we've only had those 2 for a while, which is great. Next is how the lair keys are going to work. So right now, if you haven't played in a while, the way it works right now is you farm materials from the game. You know, you do like Nightmare Dungeons, you do Hell Tides, you do everything in the game, and you get materials and use those materials to summon the boss. You fight the boss, he drops loot, right? And then all of the lesser bosses, so everyone other than Duriel and Anduriel, will drop materials to summon Duriel and Anduriel. So you're working your way up to those, and then they have the higher chance to drop the best items, the mythic drops, things like that. The flaw there is because you're using materials to summon it, you're encouraged to join a group. So if you don't join a group of, so what people do is they join a rotation. They join a group of 4 people, and you take turns putting the material in. So with your 1 material, you can see the boss 4 times, right? So instead of the 1 time on your own. So you're almost silly if you go in solo because you're getting half the loot. So they're changing it. Now it's lair keys. So you, instead of getting the materials, you will get these keys. And what happens is you go and fight a boss, and fighting the boss is free. You don't have to use materials. You can just go fight the boss. You can practice, you can learn, and you're not punished if you fail. Massive, massive win. And then when you beat it, there will be a chest at the end, and you use a lair key for that boss, you know, lair keys, to open their loot. Amazing. I think this is a very, very, very good change. Really, really good. And then, you know, these snack. But the big thing here is with the new boss, they've added an additional change where I don't think they'd have it in this list. Let me get it on here. So what happens now is when you fight these bosses, there is a chance for Belial to spawn. So say you beat Lord Zir. There's a chance for Belial to spawn as an extra boss, and then you can beat Belial. He will drop a chest, and from that chest you can pick the loot of any other boss in the game. So you can beat Lord Zir. This Belial spawns, you beat Belial, and then you can take the loot of Grigor. Huge. I think changing bosses is massive. They've also said bosses are going to have much more mechanics and be much harder. I really hope they've been watching Path of Exile 2, and they've said, bosses is supposed to be a challenge? Players are supposed to struggle on bosses? and they've really pumped them up. I really hope they're really challenging and everyone struggles with them because they're bosses. You know, they should be enjoyable. They should be really enjoyable, challenging fights. But knowing Diablo 4 so far, we one-shot everything. You know, you can have a character that's 3-4 days old and you can one-shot Duriel. So I really hope they do make them harder. And given that now you're not punished if you fail, it sounds like a win-win, right? So yeah, that's a good change. Really, really good change. And then, you know, you get your powers, which we talked about. So that's everything. Now, there were lots of changes to each individual class, and there were new items and stuff, but I don't really want to go into all that. It's all written up here if you want to see it, or you can look at your individual class and look at, you know, what's changing. But these will change a lot going into this. Is a PTR Campfire discussion, and these will go onto the PTR. Players will play them, and then there'll be more patch notes, and then there'll be another Campfire chat where they talk about more changes and more balancing. And then we'll get official patch notes when we can really look at, you know, what class is looking good, what's the new stuff. But right now, they just showed some stuff. It's pretty much like this thing was overpowered, so we're nerfing it. And this thing wasn't seeing much use, so we're buffing it. They're kind of making your builds for you a little bit. You know, they're saying, we're not seeing many people use traps on rogues, so now traps are buffed and here's a new unique. That's kind of, you know, what they do. But we won't really see anything, and we won't see the details until we've gone through the PTR and, you know, we're on the full patch notes. So let's not worry too much about balance. Now I just want to get into, I want to just talk about the state of Diablo 4, because one thing that's really frustrating is when you play this for a long time, as a fan of the game and the franchise, when you go to these Campfire chats, you look at the lives, you go to the videos and you look at the comments, everyone's asking for the same things. Everyone is asking for the same things. Everyone is saying, where are tier sets? When are we getting a working auction house? When are we getting the Paladin? When are we getting new classes? When are we getting changes to skill tree? When are leaderboards going to work again? When are we getting some new endgame content? When are we getting, you know, this thing from Diablo 3, this thing from Diablo 2? Everyone's asking for physical, tangible content that they can play. But we're not getting that. It seems like every season, all they do is they go, let's reskin the seasonal power, and then let's move things around. We did this with bosses. Now we do this with bosses. Oh, you know how the pit was like this? Now instead of tokens of you use tokens of Now instead of the pit going to 100, it goes to 120. Now instead of this instead of hell tides, you got blue tides. Now instead of blue boxes, there are now 3 green boxes. They're just like changing numbers around, moving things like ever so slightly. You know, instead of gearing this way, now you have tempering. Instead of tempering, you got masterworking. And it's like small changes to the base of the game. But we're not in early access. You know, this game's been out for over a year. It's got an expansion. Like, where's the content? Where's what are we doing? I don't know. Yeah, that's where we are. I'm not really hyped for this one. As you can probably tell. Yeah, season 8. I really want to know how you feel down below. Throw me a D4 bad if that's how you feel. Is there something that you're really looking forward to? Is there something that you really want that we don't have yet? Or are you you know, have I got blinders on? Does this look incredible? Are you really excited to use these boss powers and you can't wait for season 8? Let me know. Maybe I'm just jaded. Let me know. But yeah, the ARPG space is very competitive right now, and it's weird seeing one of the biggest players completely fumble a otherwise really good game. So yeah, that's it. Season 8 PTR. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you in the next one.